from time to time when we visit. He's of great help to us to meet with him, get his perspectives on Lebanese politics in that place, but also in terms of helping us facilitate meetings with other experts in the country. And he's well traveling, I would say. He has been in Turkey to attend some meetings. In 4 days he had attended more than more than 4 different meetings. Why I am telling this to you? It's because IMAT is well connected to regional circles, think tanks, universities, research centers. So his first-hand insight about some of the regional issues. He follows the developments in the region through his contacts in different countries in the region, as well as in European and Western countries. So today he will share with us his perspectives on what's going on in the broader MENA region, what kind of geopolitical challenges there are from a Lebanese point of view. But as I said earlier, his vision is not narrowed down to Lebanon. He rather has a broader regional approach based on his profile, his CV, and his many past engagements with different projects in the region. Without further ado, I would love to invite him to take the floor. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. First, my lecture it will be in English. I would like to extend my thanks to the ORSAM Center, to my friend Dr. Shaban, to all my friends in the ORSAM Center for allowing the chance to exchange perspective around the conflict on the Middle East or MENA region and the horizon of solutions. It's hard or even impossible to tackle the current situation without going back to the developments of events in the world, nations' game and competition among superpowers where justice is absent. The so-called Arab Spring started out in Tunisia in 2010, continue in Egypt in January 2011, and March 2011 in Syria continue, and then he spread to other states. What is the situation in our region after this uprising? We saw that the emergence of multiple security crises and the hotbeds of the tension that spread throughout the region and increased complexity of the situation. A sharp decline of security in Syria, Iraq, Libya, and Yemen. As a result of this deterioration of territories, this country transformed to be an attractive magnet and a safe haven for domestic and foreign terrorists. The threat spills over borders into neighboring countries, meaning security, stability, and diversity. In this environment, competition among regional powers escalate as they seek to manipulate sectarian, ethnic, and radicalism of society. Powers utilize armed militia to impose their will and ideology on society by means of force. Terrorism has within its geographic scope in the region, Islamic State, or as so-called Daesh. In particular, this region started to be between Syria and Iraq. It was a message for the agreement made before 100 years between the French, British, and Russian, when so-called Sykes-Picot Agreement. Leading world powers, they pursue their immediate interest to destroy the balance of power, the resulting power vacuum, and deterioration in socio-economic condition for the population that has been explored by this terrorist organization, from Al-Qaeda to Jabhat al-Nusra to Taliban in Afghanistan and Al-Qaeda in Al-Maghrib to the Islamic State Daesh. Human resources, populist religious ideas, and complete negation of generally accepted moral values combine to make them extremely dangerous and enemy for any state. But the root causes of the surge in international terrorism start in Afghanistan in 1980, when international supply of arms to the Mujahideen training Afghan and Arab fighters. As a result, we see Al-Qaeda since 90 and Taliban since 94, and everybody remember what happened in Europe after this. This period started after the end of the Cold War period and at the collapse of the Soviet Union, when a new state born. After 2001 and 2003 in Iraq, similar to what happened in Libya in 2011 and 13, political and financial assistance to some organization in Tunisia and Egypt, and military support for Libyan rebels group have gained access to the arms depot of the former Libyan army, organized arms smuggling to the world major, to hotspot under and with cooperation with some corrupted high-level people in some state. So, we see Ansar Sharia since 2011, Ansar Bayt al-Maqdis in Egypt, and as direct in Syria, a full support to groups to fight against government and join the Iraqi side and aggravate religious contradiction with more than 33,000 fighters from outside the region, armed with tanks, armed troops carriers and guns, anti-tank system and anti-aircraft weapons. These terrorists' main sources of finance include proceeds from smuggling, taxes they collect from the population and business in the area under their control. The extremists are trying to prevent the restoration of the Libyan and Afghan state now. They use the sabotage to manipulate the ceasefire agreement between Damascus and the armed opposition. They designed a provocation to undermine the process of reconciliation between the parties of the Syrian conflict. They attack both government troops and moderate opposition that join the peace process. At the end, certain states are trying to use these jihad fighters. But establishing of so-called low-tension areas was considered an important step toward promoting the cessation of hostilities and facilitating the arrival of humanitarian assistance and protection of civilians. Through the low-tension area, a control mechanism is established to oversee the situation, to step of cooperation between Syrian government, Turkey and Iran with the initiative of Russia, encircling the fighting field and avoid after between parties. It might enlarge the reconciliation, fighting terrorism groups, but the risk of external interference and internal development still exists. The coordination is a must to maintain this situation. Negotiation in Geneva must continue through overcoming the issues of preconditions. Focus on practical steps to continue fighting terrorism, to cooperate with countries who have border with Syria as Lebanon and Jordan, Turkey and Iraq, to reform the constitution and hold elections, to start reconstruction and at the end to return refugees. The West and its allies must stop to reform requirements in the former socialist countries as well as the Arab countries, because to use national liberal movement to change political regime and to encourage what is known as color revolution is dangerous. The spread of religious or national-based radicalism, extremism with the lead of the terrorism, and everybody remember what happened in Turkey last year. Meanwhile, the regional power must adopt a strategy of balance to establish a diversity, security and stability strategy. It might seem difficult to achieve these goals without finding a realistic solution to the Palestinian people and a solution for the creation of Jerusalem Jihadization. As for our days, we have Donald Trump's vision in the US with Putin in Russia, with preparation for election in March 2018. In European Union, we see that they are so busy in reorganizing its affair from the Brexit to the Catalonia in Spain and to the security development crisis. All these countries are looking for a role to play in the region, sure, to create a new model or a new Middle East that will respond to their interest concurrently with the end of Sykes-Picot. After to be managed by the proxy, as declared by Obama in Cairo, and as put by George Friedman in his famous book Next Decade, with Trump, this proxy ended to emerge a new alliance with Riyadh meeting. It means the subsequently American decision makers start according attention to encircle China and her dream, passing by Turkey to Iran and by Russia. They are reinforcing by this strategy. We can see that the positioning with the finance and the area of influence to some Islamic state start to be in Africa like Mauritania and Niger, in Mali and the border of Algeria, in the Central Asia. All this, it's a result of the big power conflict. And to remains that there is another target exploiting the conflict potential of the region and exclamation inter-ethnic and religious tension. This is why we can see a lot of this conflict and clashes from Afghanistan, where we can, and we know that there is a training camps, to Uzbekistan, where Hizb ut-Tahrir and other Islamic Jihadi Union have announced their reticence to take joint action with the Islamic State. In South Asia countries such as Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand and Philippines, we have the same things. In addition, a real threat of a further destabilization of the situation emanates from the growing of refugees in Middle East and African region, of armed conflict as radical or even of terrorists infiltrated. Therefore, the issue of security can be viewed from different angles. On the one hand, every individual cares about his own personal security and about their relatives. This is absolutely natural and normal. Of course, security of the society and the country in general is defended by the army and special services and agency, but the progress does not stand still, as the world's historical experience shows that the concept of security has shifted to the information and communication space over the last several years. So, stability is a partnership between the state, army, judiciary, and management of media and communication system and technology with other countries and states. So, how we can develop the new national security of our region in this context? What is the role of security structure and in particular of the army on the information battlefield? Who controls the information? The internet has become the square. The valued ideas, priorities, everything changed, and because it changed, time changes. The front of war are both visible and invisible. That is the reason to develop strategies aimed at securing access to control and to use of increasingly scarce resources, many of which are and will be to a much greater content, vital for the sustainable operation of economic and catering to the need of the population. We are alert and vigilant. We resist the vision of the world divided into blocks. We support multilateralism and self-determination. We believe that the development of small countries like ours, Lebanon, is nourished by the international agreement and cooperation among institutional equal actors. For that, it must be noted that the only right way for the region is normalizing with decentralization of governance and rural development without any change in borders, and going back to the peace process to reach durable and comprehensive solution for the Arab-Israeli conflict and for Palestinians to move towards stability, cooperation, and sustainable development. For armed forces, they need to be duly trained, qualified, and equipped in order to serve as a support for the new democratic system in the region and to comply with the constitution and the law. Today, analysts are talking of non-conventional war, in some cases call them the hybrid wars. This term is a complicated of economic and information aspects and military component, where actors full mobilized by their own problems and not being manipulated. So questions arise. Do we actually need to revive the psychological and ideological work, or exploiting existing socio-political to consolidate effort and proceed to concrete practical steps in systematic and operational with sustainable economic policy and solid social policy to stop the corruption and risk for the new wave of clashes? Thank you.
Thank you, Imad, for this broad overview introduction. Before I open the event to questions from the audience, let me ask you a question of my own. I mean, you refer to the Syrian conflict, the current phase where the escalation zones, non-conflict, low-tension areas you called. This is seen as one of the innovative instruments that have been developed to manage the crisis, at least at a limited capacity. You also refer to the need for the Geneva framework, the diplomatic framework. My question is, what do you think about the chances of moving from these low tension areas, or as we commonly call de-conflicting, de-escalation zones, to a broader diplomatic political solution? Is it really there, or will these arrangements remain as local realities? So far as you know, there are different zones, but it doesn't cover the entire Syrian territory, and still there are different battles. Different actors are fighting on different fronts. How do you think we can move from those local arrangements to a broader solution in the Syrian crisis? Also, if you could add a bit about the Lebanese views of this new phase in the crisis, how the Lebanese actors are seeing it. As you know, certain Lebanese actors, Hezbollah is on the ground, and recently the Lebanese army also carried out some successful operations to at least clear out the bordering regions. So if you could also talk about those issues, I would very much appreciate it.
First, to talk about the region made it. As we know, in conflict, if we cannot solve any problem directly, we have to put it as a step or as a phase. So, as I see, after a different panel of Geneva, we cannot succeed to have a stability or to stop fighting at least. So, what happened is that, to be honest, when we start talking about this low tension area or region, it's also in the same time, it was a changement in the US policy, in the same time, changement of the Turkey policy, and in the same time, it was some like real discussion between Russian and Chinese, maybe with Saudi Arabia, with GCC especially. So in this way, we can find that a command can be used on the field. And for that, after the diplomatic discussion maybe it was low profile, but it was so important to talk about what happened to make the panel go from Geneva till Asitana. So when we start in Asitana, it was a real progress in negotiation. It was an opportunities to make the situation more realistic, because all the steps was made before in Geneva, it was from one way, just it was to change or to continue the change of the political behavior inside Syria without any related with what happened inside the field. Inside the field it was, at this period, we was talking about political process, but on the other hand, we have a real war inside Syria. So you cannot talk about a political process with unstable state. For that, the panel was good as a transition, but this transition in Asitana is just to return to Geneva process, and it was clear from Lavrov and from Tillerson that there is an agreement to continue with this process, and at the end the solution is a political solution. Everybody knows that. And to be honest, maybe Syria, what the Syrian need is a real reconstruction of the state. It's a real, to talk about, I talk about democracy, that the army must support the democracy in state, like all in the Arab country. So it's not army, it's not related with a regime or with one person. Must contribute for the stability of the democracy and the society. For that, we need a long process. For that, I think that the process in Asitana will continue till we can start. It means in the next 6 months, if we hear the agreement, say related to Idlib or in Dar'a, we are talking about 6 months of test period, of reconciliation, and of course the contribution of Turkey, of Iran, of Russia, because if you see any agreement made on the field in Dar'a or in Aleppo, there is 4 who signed: Turkey, Iranian government, and organization or the opposition in this region. So it means everybody is concerned about this ceasefire, and to continue this process, we can access to the political discussion, and we see that day after day the participation of the military opposition inside Syria, when they start to participate in Asitana, we can see some difference, not like before when the field is totally different from who negotiate in Geneva. This is one. About Geneva process, if, as I know crisis management, and I study some cases in the region, in Iraq, and the nuclear process with Iran, it seems that maybe at least we need 2 years more to arrive to this process, to arrive to Geneva process that can be as a preparation for the election inside Syria. It means the problem of refugees will continue for this 2-3 years, next 2-3 years. If nothing happens, it means if the situation, because the situation is still risky, we're still talking about unstable situation. If any thing happen and related to the regional, let's say, relation between the US and Iran, if it will be not good in a few months, it means the application will be also will return in Syria or in Iraq. For that, everything now it's pragmatic. And related to the Lebanese view related to Hezbollah, we have to, when Hezbollah was in Lebanon, he was fighting Israel, all the Arab country was supporting him, also Saudi Arabia. But when he was related with the acts, let's say what happened in Syria, involved in the war inside Syria, it seems we are talking about complication. But as I know, what will be in the future related to the Hezbollah inside Syria, I'm not talking about Hezbollah Lebanon. Maybe in few months you will hear a lot of this Hezbollah Syria, because maybe Iranian they finished to prepare Hezbollah Syria. It's totally different from Lebanese Hezbollah. It's a new Hezbollah Syrian body. It means we are talking about a complication of situation inside Syria. And for Hezbollah in Lebanon, we know, and everybody knows that he's inside the government, he's inside the institution. But if in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the process, the US process, sanction against Hezbollah start to be implicated, it means we have some complication in the political field in Lebanon, because everybody knows that Hezbollah is powerful in Lebanon, and he is in all levels in society. So if any sanction is against Hezbollah, it means against all the political and socio-economic life of Lebanon. For that, return to what happened with the Lebanese border, we have to know that in the same period when it was the agreement made in Daraa, and the agreement was between American, Russian, and the Jordanian, we see that the decision was taken to finish the border, Lebanese border. And now the Lebanese border, or Lebanese army, they are support, real support from different European country and the US. And before I came last week, it was an agreement made by Lebanese army and the British side to continue financing the bridges along all the border between Lebanon and Syria. And they, I can say it's good for Lebanon to keep Lebanon safe if the situation will be worse in the next few months in Syria. Because if, as I say, the policy of Trump toward Iranian, it will be implicated in Syria, not in Iran. And as a return, Hezbollah is preparing Hezbollah Syria as Iranian policy. It means we are talking about more complication in the field, in Syria field. It means in few months we have to, as a Lebanese, to take care about Lebanese border, smuggling, terrorist activities, arms, everything, because what happened last few years in Lebanon is one of this unstable border. Now the decision is taken from north Lebanon till the border to Shib'a region, near to the Palestinian occupied territory. The program is continuing, and the support of the British and Canadian and the US is continuing. And before few days also the American sent 2 airplanes, Super Tucano, that can be also used in unstable situation if it will happen something in the border. So to talk about Lebanese army, it seems that they are ready to contribute for the stability, and after combating military way the terrorism, now the real war start, if I can say, counter-terrorism. We have to counter terrorism because we know that there is a lot of, let's say, agent for Daesh or other terrorist organization, or for some intelligence services that can be under these names. So, to be honest, the situation, security situation, still unstable. Yes, we have a quiet time now, but it's not mean that war against terrorism stop in Lebanon. It's,
Thank you. Yeah, Mike, please.
Thank you. I thank Ahmad and Dr. Shaban for this round table. And just let me flip Dr. Shaban's question and put it in another way. Now, if there is potential risk that de-escalation process, de-escalation zones, might not lead to a viable political process in Syria, there is also a potential risk that Syrian territorial unity might not be preserved. And there is also a risk looms on the horizon for Iraq as well. Now, if that happened, or the escalation zones became a permanent situation for a long period of time, how that would affect Lebanon, situation in Lebanon?
Mr. Ambassador, for Lebanon and Emirates especially, they help a lot Lebanese army by helicopters and others supply. And you know that it's pragmatic. For Lebanon, this small country in geography, maybe all our border is related with Syria. So we have a part also related with the smuggling and parts with the sea. So I can say that Lebanese army, they are ready, as I know. From the sea, with the support of UNIFIL. There is a, after 2006, UNIFIL is surveying the sea in Lebanon to stop the unstable situation from that time, 2006, and still till now in communication with Lebanese army. So the sea is under control. To the border, I said that the British, American and Canadian, they financed from Ras Ba'albak, where it was the last war against Daesh, till the region Rashaya, near to Shab'a farms, when, where the problem still in the border between Lebanon, Syria and Israeli occupied of Palestinian territory. On the other hand, in the north, we have like a problem, if we can say, because the relation between villages, like Wadi Khalid, till the region of Homs, the communication of people, we have to know that maybe most of the people who want something go to Syria, then to arrive to Beirut as distance. So in 10 minutes they can go to inside Syria, then to go to the capital or to the center of Bekaa. It means there is a lot of communication between Lebanese and Syrian. You have to control the border from smuggling, yes, but you have to wait that if something happened in the region, in the close region with the Syrian, maybe we have a new flow of refugees. So the administration in Lebanon, they are ready? I don't know. This is one of the problems. The second problem, the support of the international committee, UN and others institutions. Till now, we can say that we have more than 1.3 million refugees, Syrian, and we have like 400,000 Palestinian, and we still have 35 or more of refugees from Iraq. It means we have a lot of refugees in Lebanon, and the population we are 4.5 million as Lebanese. It means half of population is refugees. And the government now, we have a lot of problems related to the financing, administrative, and also resources. So what will happen? It means the society is unstable. Maybe we can find inside these refugees, as I say, a lot of this, because every day the ISF, Internal Security Forces, arrest a lot of linked people, or people who has been recruited by some of organization, Al-Nusra, Daesh, others. It means the communication still. Plus, we know, and you have to know that the technology of, like I say, the next war, the hybrid war, it can be classical, like visible to us. So we need some support related to the electronic survey. They use a lot of technology. You know that Daesh, they have review, they have publishing, they have a website, they recruit through Facebook, through games. There is a lot of this technology used in the terrorism. It means you need support. We are ready, I can say, as visible, yes. But if we go with this hybrid war, maybe it will be complicated for Lebanese, or for Lebanese army, especially.
No, but let me continue on the same question Mr. Ambassador raised. And in case, let's assume there is territorial dismemberment, division of Syria, what are the broader implications? You mentioned the military risks, but there are also political implications for Lebanon. In such a case, if Syria eventually leads toward disintegration, can it also trigger some similar process in Lebanon, some political crisis, in addition to what you already experienced from time to time?
To talk about geography, change of geography, it's impossible. But to talk about role of region inside Syria, I'm sure Syria will never return like before. I'm sure. Everybody knows that. But we have to know from what happened in Lebanon. After war, who was militia will be the businessman after, for reconstruction, and after he will be in the political life. It means we cannot see a new demography, a new geography inside Syria. Everything will be like that, but everyone, he keep his region. It means related to the economy, related to the political issues, related to the balance of terror between the politicians, because the next step, the government will not be the government of Al-Assad. It will be a government, it's a puzzle, like in Lebanon. So any change with this puzzle, it means unstable situation, it means crisis. This crisis, it can be political crisis, economic crisis, or sometimes it can be like organized crime. You can see some crime, some unstable situation related to this system, the new system. But to talk about what you see in Kurdistan, or as a promoted in the media, the new Kurdistan in Iraq or something like that, I can see this in Syria. And also in Iraq, it will be, there is some resolution for this crisis, because nobody is ready for a new state in the region. Because if we start, we are like a domino. And we see also, like, as I say, the open space, Catalonia, maybe it will be Germany, maybe it will be England, Ireland. We have to talk about all countries. Anyone want to make a referendum, he can do a referendum, and after he say, okay, I'm alone. No, it seems not like that. But to talk about a new stability inside Syria, yes. But we have to see that at least the situation in Syria is not stable, security one. So when we focus on security, it's because everybody now is involved and everybody is looking to benefits in the next step. But if anyone thinks that he will not benefits, he will not continue. And when we talk about stability, we talk about stability in Damascus. But outside Damascus, everything is destroyed. There is no infrastructure, nothing. Who will return? Nobody. So it seems I hear some, maybe not rumors, some information. Maybe they will construct a new Aleppo. Maybe to reconstruct Aleppo is so difficult. So they will make another city. So we are talking about a big changement inside the demographic system. Maybe it will be complicated. But unstable situation will continue, sure.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to ORSAM for this invitation, and also to my fellow citizen, Mr. Ayman, and my friend, and also Dr. Murad is here. Thank you for the invitation. As Ambassador of Lebanon, I would like to maybe clarify some points risen in this lecture Mr. Ayman's highlighted. First of all, of course, the lecture was generalized, very, very generalized, so there were no specific points related to Lebanon, except later when he explained something. I want to say that Lebanon, from the beginning of the Syrian war, has taken a clear position, which is dissociation. It dissociates itself officially from what's going on in Syria. Now, on the ground, of course, it's not secret that many parties are involved in Syria, many Lebanese parties, I mean. The most obvious of which is Hezbollah, of course. Maybe because it's the most organized organization which is involved in the Syrian war. But of course there are other parties who are anti-Assad, pro-revolution, and they are also fighting there. And it's like, it was kind of a joke that Lebanese are fighting in Syria, but Lebanon is so far away from what's going on in Syria, except for, of course, the repercussions of the Syrian war is so much reflected in Lebanon, most notably the refugees. The refugee crisis in Lebanon, Mr. Ayman pointed out to 1.3 million. This is the official number, and you know and I know we have more than 2 million Syrian refugees in Lebanon, besides, of course, the Palestinians since 1948. Around 400,000, and what you mentioned also, some Iraqis and others. This is the main impact of the Syrian war in Lebanon. The refugees are not only do not form economic or do not pose economic threat. Also, we do have some security threat from the refugees' presence in Lebanon, because Lebanon is a very fragile society. And the balance, the sectarian balance, sometimes when it's upset, it causes different problems. But so far, thank God, we are safe security-wise. Concerning what's going on in Syria and the escalation zones and whatever, of course there is fear in Lebanon. I mean, deep fear that this system of allocating some zones here and naming them different names, safe zone or de-escalation zone or whatever, that might lead, physically to the disintegration of Syria. We are against, of course, any disintegration. We are pro and we support the integrity of Syrian territory, the integrity of Iraq or Iraqi territories. We are against any separation. We are totally and bluntly against any separation in the region. We believe that the region does not need any more chaos. We always call for dialogue. Of course, we are with the rights of, to give the right to all communities within the border that are now currently there. This is what the main points I want to say. As to Hezbollah and Syrian Hezbollah and Lebanese Hezbollah, what Mr. Ahmad mentioned, officially as Lebanon government, we did not, and we have not, and we will not support or cover any involvement of any Lebanese party in the Syrian war or any regional and friendly and brotherly countries in the region. So officially our position is very clear. But what's going on the ground, it's not like we are ready or not. Also, my friend Ahmad mentioned that the Lebanese army is ready or maybe not. It's not about that. I think no one is ready in the region to face the repercussion of disintegration of Syria or Iraq. This is our position, and officially, and we are doing all our best to, diplomatically, of course, and politically, we cannot do more than that, to keep the status quo that is going now, even though it's not the best one, but it's better than chaos in the region. Thank you.
Thanks for this intervention.
Sorry, I just maybe forget to mention that when I say Lebanese army is ready, I'm talking about military way and resources. I know that they can infiltrate, they can have a lot of things to do if they take a decision to make operation inside Lebanon as terrorists. But maybe the cooperation between friends who support Lebanon, till now we prevent a lot of preparation to make a suicide bomb attack, explosive attack, and others. And we still have, when we talk about the new policy of the US toward Iran, the implication in Syria, as an analyst, Israel is not so far from this policy. So one of the threats of Lebanon, because Hezbollah is still in Lebanon, linked to the acts of resistance in the region, and if the US will put any policy, maybe Israel will contribute in this policy directly or indirectly. It means they can use their spy inside Lebanon against Hezbollah, or it means we can see some unstable situation related to this topic, or what we hear last few weeks, that from both sides, from Hezbollah side and from Israeli side, that both they are ready to destroy each other. It means to destroy Lebanon at the end. It means like what happened in Korea. Maybe something will happen unexpected, but can lead, like in 2006, can lead to a war. And this war, this time, it will not be related directly to Lebanon. It will be extended directly to Syria. And last month, when Nasrallah talked about a war with Israel, he said that Hashd al-Sha'b in Iraq will be implicated and the Syrian will be implicated. It means we are talking about regional war, not Lebanon. So nobody will be safe after this.
Please.
Thank you so much. I appreciate Professor Shaban, ORSAM, and distinguished speaker. Let me shortly drop two questions.
Thanks also for the audience, if you could introduce
This is Muzaffarpur from Iran Embassy, First Secretary of Iran Embassy. I cover Turkish think tanks and Turkish foreign policy toward Middle East and the Western Bloc. The first question is about the last version of Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Astana process. And secondly, you talked about news hikes because it is a word, I remember that 15 years ago when I was a student, different teachers, different professors talked about the changing the strategy of the United States, the big powers, to change the borders. Anyhow, it is a fashionable word now in Turkish media. We have new Sykes-Picot Turkish leaders, Iranian intellectuals talk about new Sykes-Picot plans. And for this, let me ask your understanding, your interpretation on Trump's strategy on the borders. Do you think that the United States as a remarkable power in the region believes in changing the borders? If yes, do you think that they are supportive to KRG referendum? Forget about rhetoric. Yes, everybody says we condemn, we don't accept that, but I'm talking about a strategy. For instance, since the First World War, Grand Kurdistan was a strategy, was a basic concept in American foreign policy till now. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. But to be honest also, when you make studies or when you talk about strategy, and everybody knows how the Americans think about, or the think tanks in the US, how they think. They don't care about geography. They are talking about powers. It means if the American can be here and this place is named Turkey or Azerbaijan, who cares? They are here. So who care about, I'm not talking about Sykes-Picot, and I say to not to make a new border. Okay? Sykes-Picot was made, but we have to know that now there is a new, every country now is searching for his policy. Policy, it means profits. It means investment, it means economy, it means political issues. Who care about borders? Border is something psychologically. Now, you can see in the EU, all this country inside one block. The problem is still inside the block. We have the Arab country, the League. What they can do to have a resolution for this crisis or for the Arab crisis, that it can be like a domino effect everywhere. Nothing. It means the problem is not state. The problem is like how to maintain stability in this state. For that, the Americans talk about failed state and not failed state. They don't care about border. And about referendum, as I know, the new policy of the US toward Iran, it will be, the implication directly, it will be in Syria. For that, you can see that before the Israelis say more than 100 attacks against Hezbollah and Iranian position in Syria, they made inside Syria last 6 years. And as we know, it was more than 17. 17, they published about it, made it near to Damascus airport, and made some attack made near Hama or Homs or near the Lebanese border. It means the war against Hezbollah in Syria stopped by proxy. For that, it seems that what will happen, maybe the question about the tension zone and what will be the future of Syria, this is why I say, if we cannot arrive to a stable situation in the next 4 or 5 months, it means the situation will be like that, or will be worse in the next 5 months. And we are not talking about ceasefire with the opposition or with some opposition who say we are ready to cooperate. But like in Idlib now, in Idlib, when you cooperate, you will contribute in the war against terrorism. It means at the end, both sides, they have to be destroyed. who contribute and the opposition who will not contribute. It means the destruction of the region will continue. Syria, maybe Iraq. Because now the question, what will be the future of Hashd al-Sha'b in Iraq? Is a part of army, yes, but the government can support financing this army, and as Napoleon say, what we will do with this army if there is no job? It means army for war. With who? Okay? In Syria it's the same. Maybe we can join all this opposition group under the umbrella of, I don't know, any cooperation system. But to do what? When we finish with to counter Daesh, what we will do? It's a big question. For that, it seems the situation is not good. I think that.
The first question,
About
the attitude of Saudis and Qataris toward Astana process.
The Qatar?
Qatar and Saudis, Saudi
Their
Arabia,
attitudes,
attitude,
their
you know,
reactions to the-
last version of their interpretation
Saudi-
of Astana process. Are they supportive?
Look what happened with the crisis between Qatar and Saudi. It seems for me it's one way. We cannot return. And it can be, we can see some implication in most of the discussion panels politically and inside Syria or inside Iraq. Because what happened, it's not related with the political attitude to Qatar toward Saudi Arabia. And I'm not saying that Saudi take this decision after Trump visit. But we see it after the Trump visit. Because there is a lot of information related to relation with Qatar, instability of the region. Maybe it's not related directly, or I can't say terrorism, but everyone of this country is searching for his policy. And sometimes they are in conflict. But behind this conflict also there is some damage. You can see some damage. One of this damage, it can be maybe the Astana process will continue, because for Russian they are in the middle. They are cooperating with the Saudi, at the same time they are not so far from Qatarian as a negotiation. But for Russian, if we talk about Russian, they care about their policy, their profits inside Syria, inside the region. Maybe they need the stability for some purpose. Maybe other countries, they don't need stability. I don't know. But at the end, if we arrive to a stability, that is not good for, let's say, for Europe. It will be an agreement between American and Russia. Europe will be happy? Maybe no.
I think I would explain something that, as I feel that there is a question about the Saudi's position on Astana process. This has nothing to do with the crisis among Saudi Arabia, between Saudi Arabia and other countries and Qatar. As far as the Saudi's position on Astana, as we have here, that lately in the King's visit to Russia, that Saudi supports Astana process, provided that Astana process would lead to a viable political process in Syria based on Geneva I declaration. And this is what the declared position of Saudi Arabia, as we have here, and you can confirm that or not. So it is not particular country towards Astana process position, process that would decide or influence the situation in Syria and Iraq, but it is all actors are on the ground and regional actors, how they will behave in Syria and in Iraq, that would decide the future of these countries, besides, of course, the national actors in Syria, with the direct parties to the conflict, and how they would manage either to accept a viable political process that would lead to a solution, or they will continue fighting and continue this conflict. This depends on the direct parties, depends on the regional powers, and depends, of course, on the international community to do and to support that.
Sorry, just a remark. For Iranian, you have to look to the border in Afghanistan. What will be in this region, in the Middle Asia? Because everybody is focusing on Middle East, but maybe what will happen, it will be in Afghanistan. For that, the first strategy, Trump put it for Afghanistan. And now the second, he's talking about toward Iran. It means target is very clear. So when we talk about crisis related to process of Asitana, Qatar or Saudi, maybe now this process, it at the end, we can say the end. Because relation, as I say, Russia, Qatar, Russia, Saudi, there is some resolution.
But now Afghanistan is more worse than before, you know, Professor. A very fragile situation in comparison with last year, with 2 years before.
Khorasan.
Very
Khorasan.
very fragile situation, and you know that Daesh is going to Afghanistan. Now Daesh guerrilla fighters are going to Afghanistan and Central Asia. Yes, it is a plan. It seems, they say, I don't know.
Risky. Other participants, what?
Actually, I was thinking about Lebanese internal issues while we are talking about the regional things. And you were talking about Axis, the one Hezbollah X and its alliance. Okay, this axis is very clear when we look. What is its implication? The other X, what is its sign in Lebanon? I can't see it, that X very clearly. Or is there any real party opposing Hezbollah in Lebanon?
In Lebanon?
Yes. And of course it's alliance in the regional level.
If we talk about how Americans think, if you are not with me, you are against me. The party or the politician who is not supporting Hezbollah is against Hezbollah. It's clear. It seems like that. But on the other hand, maybe it's different from the acts of Hezbollah. Because when we talk Hezbollah, or the relation of Hezbollah in the region, is also different from the ally with Hezbollah. For Hezbollah, there is a clear strategy, is very organized, very prepared for this, let's say, military and security confrontation, politically, media, everything is very organized, very linked also with Iran. So the second level is the ally, and the third one is supporter. Okay. Sometimes the supporter can change. Sometimes ally can change, but the heart is one. For the other, we cannot talk about heart. We talk about allies. So sometimes it change, but of course, who is, maybe now you have a problem inside the GCC, but return to the policy of GCC toward Hezbollah or toward the Muslim Brotherhood. There is a policy very clear and declaration from Emirates toward this organization. And also, if you can see to Egypt, Saudi Arabia. They are so clear. Okay, so, but the implication inside Lebanon, you can find two ways, but two parallel ways, yes. They are not combined, they are not together like a heart, but they fight against one heart, the other side. Yeah.
I'm from Ukraine. I'm doing my master's degree here. My name is Yaroslav. I want to ask, what about the relations of Russia and Hezbollah? Is it everything clear between them, or there's some conflict of interest? I'm talking about the Syria.
I hear that there is some conflict of interest, but as I say, there is the heart linked, there is ally and supporter or friend. Russia is an ally, and I say that ally can change. Conflict of interest, I don't know. Maybe there is, but who take decision in Syria, let's say in Syria? It seems for me the government, the regime. They take the decision. But what I know about the regime, they are pro-Russian than Iranian. It seems for me like that.
It means a conflict.
I'm not talking about, it seems like if you look to the history of Syria, from Hafiz al-Assad till now, they are linked to Russia, to Soviet period, till the period of President Bashar al-Assad, linked with the Russian. Maybe not so deeply, but we see it after this crisis. And after this crisis, we see that the contribution or the cooperation between Iranian and Russian start to be more clear to us in Syria because of the crisis. But if the crisis stops, maybe you can change your ally.
So, if the war between Israel and Hezbollah will occur, will Russia benefit from this or not?
As I know, in 2006, it was a good market to sell arms. Why not now?
To Hezbollah.
They will support Hezbollah. Why not? If the Israeli is under the US policy, it will be as a proxy war, like in 2006.
So it didn't satisfy your...
You don't know?
We will see. In the future will show.
Please.
If Bashar al-Assad stay in power in Syria and gets almost all the country back, beside Kurdistan, but he goes to the Iraqi border and he stabilizes all Syria and stays in power for 5 years and 10 years, how will the regional powers from Gulf region to even to Western countries accept their defeat or deal with the Syrian government if they stay in power?
They never stop communication and relation with Bashar al-Assad. I know that, and everybody knows. I'm talking about countries, states. Nobody cut relations. But as you say, he returned as on the head of all Syria. Maybe politically, yes. But in reality, no. Maybe you can see in the border, like with Dar'a, with Aleppo, because it's a part of Aleppo still under Free Syrian Army. I'm not talking about Idlib, about Aleppo border. Some parts was Kurd, the other parts under Free Syrian Army near to the Jordanian border. It means he is not controlling everything, but it will be shared. It will, maybe he will continue on the head of the state, yes, but he shared the government. And at the end, it's a political agreement and between big powers. It seems like that.
Other questions, remarks? So with that pessimistic remark, we come to the end of our discussion. Today, realists are pessimists overall. So it was a very enlightening tour of horizon. We tried to look at different issues. It seems some of your views were provocative to some of our participants. But as you said, these are realistic assessments, which may be more or less how things will evolve. But in any case, as you also emphasized, the risks are big. So things may go that direction or this direction. This we don't see, we will try to follow. And as think tanks, it's our job to facilitate people who try to understand those developments. And in that respect, I think we did our job by hosting IMAD here. And also I would love to thank to all participants for taking the time to attend this event, and hope to see you at another occasion. And then, as a matter of fact, end of this month, ORSAM is holding a summit in Antalya on CV countering violent extremism. To the embassies we sent invitations. If you have not received, please contact us. If anybody from the embassy may plan to attend, we can share the information. It's a joint event, ORSAM and Hedaya Center, which is based in Abu Dhabi as part of GCTF. So this is the annual research conference. We hope that this conference will help us understand issues of radicalization, the threat posed by those groups or forces in the region. And again, I thank you to IMAD for this talk, and I hope to see you more often in Ankara.
Thank you.